You're listening to the Phatcast, live from the studio with Colin Reynolds.
Everyone a killer, everyone a saint, flirting with disaster as we reverberate. Are you reeling from the heat, my love? Sometimes it's hard to speak. I can feel the soft, warm glow radiating from your cheek as I drive you home. Flicker of the gaslight leaves the self-doubt burning like the winged mountain. Will you slow down? With me, brush your lips against my cheek as the light burns low. Or will you take your aim? Lion, bird, and swallow. Lion, bird, and swallow. Lion, bird, and swallow. Lion, bird, and swallow. Everyone a killer, everyone a saint. You choose another master, reflected in your fate. Are you reeling from the heat, my love? Sometimes it's hard to speak. I can feel the soft, warm glow radiating from your cheek as I drive you home. Flicker of the gaslight leaves the self-doubt burning like the winged mountain. Will you slow dance with me, brush your lips against my cheek as the light burns low? Or will you take your aim? Lion, bird, and swallow. Lion, bird, and swallow. Lion, bird, and swallow. Lion, bird, and swallow. Do we try to wrestle the difference between us, or is our wrestle at an end? Lion, bird, and swallow. Lion, bird, and swallow. Lion, bird, and swallow. Lion, bird, and swallow.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Phatcast. I'm your host, Colin Reynolds, and today we just heard from ORRI and Dave playing their song Lyrebird and Swallow. Due to a story I won't get into at the moment, Dave wasn't available for this recording, but we have ORRI with us.
Colin, how you doing, mate?
Good, bro. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's good to be here.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
I was just digging your denim jacket, actually.
Mate, this is I don't know, that new breed of workwear that has those high, sophisticated threads in them that can take it all.
Oh, sure.
It's good. It's good.
So, like, you get be like hung by suspenders from the roof, and the jacket will keep you there.
100%.
Now-
Saves the fish hooks in the skin. It's good.
I know a friend that does that actually.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I think we've all had one of those friends or more.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, this is it's a special talent. I would never do it.
Yeah.
I'm a wimp. Like you start fucking. Oh no, forget that.
I'd be the fool who'd try, only to regret. I reckon.
Mm.
You be careful with that stuff. There's some science in that business.
Oh, there is. I'm sure. Like there's a very specific amount of load bearing that a batch of skin can have.
That's it.
I'd be worried it would tear through.
That's it. It's where the physics come into it.
Right.
The amount of hooks per
square
inch or
I'd
something.
need like 50 fucking carabiners or something.
Oh yeah.
In any case,
yeah.
Tell us about your music. So how long have you and Dave been playing together?
Dave and I have been up to it for must be approaching 3 years, I reckon.
Oh yeah.
At a glance, we sort of known each other about for a bit before that, mutual friends, and someone spoke up and said Dave's got a swag full of great songs that he's written and he's not doing much with.
Yep.
I just called him up. I said, "What are you doing, brother? Let's have a look at these."
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I'd love to hear some harmonies in there. There's the occasional hint, like you go and you do it a little.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear more of that.
Yeah. No, fair call. Note to self.
Yeah, it's almost like
the game, mate.
a modern Simon and Garfunkel type thing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. Look, it's on my list constantly to address that more so.
Sure.
I think I get caught in a different space when I'm thinking about the other person's songs and where it's going, and I'm always this big picture sort of observer and thinker, and that's why I sometimes hold back my contributions.
Sure.
And I forget my own performance role.
Right.
Sometimes, not always, but sometimes that's what happens. And I find if we'd done a couple more songs, then I would have been there within a few. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's something that anybody watching the performance would notice is that you show great restraint in terms of. I mean, obviously, your ideal is to serve the song. That's what you're trying to do.
100%.
Yeah. Best philosophy. For those of you who haven't seen, ORRI's a bona fide shredder. He could fill all that space up with notes.
Oh, look, it's not a hard thing to do, really.
Harder for some than others.
Yeah, 92% of them be right as well.
Right. But yeah, so when you have seen that, and then you contrast that with the super restrained kind of performance, it's it's a lovely thing to behold.
Cheers. I mean, I started out as a bedroom guitar player like many people for many years.
Same.
I started when I was 12
Yep.
and I just loved it. It was that little, probably calmed me down, got me sorted many times over my life. And I just loved the knowledge of music and I got a lot out of it. I guess I just found it quite a journey unto itself.
Sure.
I started singing songwriting in Hobart in the early 90s. And,
Like busking?
Mostly, I think Warren down there at Syrup gave me my first gig on Sunday afternoon
Sure.
for $70 for 2 hours. I called myself Justin Freeway for some unbeknown reason, and I just jumped into it, and I kept that up for a few years.
That's a great name.
It came from an old badge that I pulled out of an Austin vehicle at the Ulverston tip face one day.
Yep.
And stuck it to my guitar and called myself that. But you do these things, and I worked hard at that. I went to Melbourne as a singer-songwriter, and one day I just realized it was just a really heavy bag. It was like a really, it would take me inside my head in a way that was interesting but not always enjoyable. And so I sort of let the songwriting go and I started playing instrumental music. And then I just found a real affinity with singer-songwriters because it's not an easy task. And so I take on a supportive role as much as I take on, and I know the music needs more than someone just turning up for their own show.
Right.
And singer-songwriting, it is, I've been known to sort of almost protect the singer-songwriters from the stress of a gig just so they can enjoy it.
Yep.
And sometimes to the, detriment of my own playing, but I think that if you're writing the songs, you're first and foremost. And a comfortable singer is going to deliver the best, and the song's going to make the most sense.
Well, of course, there's the other act you do with Susanna,
Yep.
where you've very much got a similar role to the one you're describing here.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Susanna and I got together at a mutual friend, sort of arranged a gig to go and watch some great music, and I bumped into her and we started talking about music, and I think she just moved past this point of like the VCA style Melbourne where, you know, music had to be so rigid. And we started talking about music. She just loved the way I talked about music.
Sure.
And we decided to play together there and then, just on a conversation at a bar.
Yep.
And we
How
haven't
it
looked
often
back.
starts, hey?
Yeah, and that's really enjoyable. Her voice. I mean, when she plays guitar right and her voice is right, I don't need to do a lot.
Sure.
But it does add more to the space and the music if I'm there, and she enjoys the support, and it does give there's room to add. You know, it doesn't. I'm not there to make the day. I'm there to, you know, I'm not there to. The song already exists, but you know, it's just a really beautiful thing to be a part of. So I'm always in a very appreciative state with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it took me by surprise in a way when the first time we met must have been at Mona main stage.
100%.
You come to support her, and
Yep.
here you come up with a messageable rectifier, and I was like, "Oh my god, what's this? This is." I'm a metalhead, obviously.
Yeah.
So I've seen those amps before, and I was thinking, "Oh wow, this is not what I was expecting from this act." But and of course, it's not a thrash metal act. It's a
no. Look, I was playing my
what a great amp.
choice amp
though,
though. Was little Princeton. I got a vintage 70s Princeton, which I was playing with Dave there before, and it just doesn't cut the mustard when I started playing louder gigs.
Yep.
And I wanted a complementary sound.
Just a little bit more.
Run a stereo sound, and having 4 stages of gain. Well, you only really used the first 2.
Yeah.
But they're just an amazing quality amp. I tried Mezza Boogies out years ago, and I wasn't ready for them, because you've got to be confident about making a sound.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you're not hiding. Whereas a squishy Fender, I guess I was always hiding in reverb and trem.
Sure.
So I guess I sort of felt like I was ready for that sound, and it's a great compliment to the Princeton.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you do like a wet dry scenario where basically you've got just your guitar tone coming out of one amp, and then you've got the reverb and whatever other effect you're using coming through the other one.
I do use a lovely stereo tremolo as well sometimes, just to give it a bit more movement around.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very thick sound.
Yeah, it's the tones. I mean, I don't know. Maybe one day, I think maybe a long time ago, I reinvented myself one day. I was, especially off the back of singer-songwriting, I was playing complicated guitar. I was writing a lot of chords. My hands were busy. My voice was busy. I was quite polyphonic in what I was doing. You know, it was like I was weaving. And then one day, I think I might have just sat down and strummed a D chord for about 3 hours. I went, what am I doing? There's so much in the right harmonics of a guitar.
Yeah.
I love harmonic structure more than anything else.
Sure.
You know, I do love what one note's relationship is to another.
Definitely.
You know,
well, at the end of it, all music and the feeling of music, it all comes down to the intervals.
100%. Yeah.
It's all about those intervals, and the comparative simple or complex ratio you've got between the fundamental and the other harmonics. That is going to absolutely not just change the way it feels, but change the way it feels to play, change how it sounds. All music could be described in terms of intervals, and particular intervals have particular feelings.
100% they do. I mean, I was a closet nerd at the age of 15. I looked cool with a guitar in my hand, but really I was studying my ass off. You know, I was actually studying 4-part harmony, baroque theory, and whatnot, and understand all intervals and inversions and cadences and all that sort of mischief. But the things I found were the pure things. Like I'm still seeking. I still love seeking out those notes that will tie 3 chords together.
Oh yes.
You know, and for me, then sometimes sometimes that's the purposeful job. That pedal note that runs through.
Well, like the supertonic.
Yeah.
Almost any chord sequence, you could treat that as your main melodic note, and like more than half of the chords in the bloody in the key, all share that note.
Yes, yes,
as
yeah.
part of their
That's
fundamental
it.
structure.
The relationship between one chord to another is like you acknowledge the common notes, and then you know, I love looking for another note that will relate to both of them, but it's an outsider, an
Oh, for
outlier.
sure. Every
Yeah.
single note
Yeah.
in the scale and the ones outside of it, every single note has something special to
Yeah.
bring to the overall harmonic backdrop. It's about finding the right spot for those notes. For example, commonly beaten up note, the flat fifth or the augmented fourth, depending on what scale you're using.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm a metalhead, so I love that
Oh, yeah.
interval.
It's great.
Yeah, and I mean,
It
any
conjures-
blues player ever, like
Absolutely.
that's like their main active sound.
Yeah.
Um,
It's the dirty devil note. It's great.
oh, it's so great. It's so great. But once again, it only takes that character on because of the interval. You can't just play that note and
No,
get that sound.
no,
You only get that because you're playing it with the tonic there.
100%.
Good old tritone. Just the best note ever. It's something interesting about that. So there's a bit of a myth, and people talked about it being, the devil's note, and that they weren't allowed to sing that note in church and that sort of
The
thing.
Purple Haze Hendrix story.
Right. And that's actually nonsense. But in every story filled with nonsense, there's a grain of truth there somewhere. And props to Adam Neely for this, which is where I discovered it, watching Adam Neely on YouTube.
Okay.
So what really happened? So now, when you're singing a perfect fifth, okay, there is actually a third note you can hear. If you've got one person singing the tonic, one person singing the fifth, you can actually hear a third note there, which is the relationship between them. Happens to be the major third.
Yes.
That's the note you're actually hearing.
Yes.
Right. But so what these monks experienced, someone singing the perfect fifth, and then they heard this other voice. And the suspicion was that that's the devil's voice.
Okay.
Presumably this was a very localized phenomenon initially, because no doubt a completely separate group of monks could have gone, this is God singing along with
I'm
us.
sure it has something to do with the physicality of the chamber or the space or
Absolutely.
where they were. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Resonance. Yeah.
You might even find that in certain chambers you can actually get a third note even from singing a fourth,
Yep.
But yeah, so that's kind of where that started. And the idea that the tritone was banned or taboo, complete nonsense.
No, it wasn't banned. Was it taboo?
No,
No.
not in the least.
Just hopeful. We just that desire to be a little bit naughty.
And true they didn't use it a lot in their music because the chanting they weren't typically after discordant sounds.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I mean, our origins of classical music and very prove it. Like, just the obsession with the rigid Western nature of the scale.
Yep.
There's so much more interest out there than that.
But much.
That's
more.
the heritage, and it's, I guess, that creates the lands, the space for further discovery. Really, doesn't it?
Certainly. Like you look at other cultural musics, like the music coming out of Africa and out of India, just for some blatant examples, like the Indian classical music, you could transcribe most of it in Western notation, but get a player to look at that notation and play it, that's probably not going to sound quite the same,
The inflections are missing.
Absolutely, and the microtonal nature. I mean, how are you going to write? You're going to say, "Oh, this one has a quarter bend. This one has a 7/16 bend."
Yeah, those nuances are everything to me. They really are. Even just recently, I play a lot of music with Sam Burke, my cousin.
Oh yes,
and with the first time, we did a gig recently with Julian Swinnerton on cello, Little Jesus Darwin, opening for Daz Art.
That's a great band name. Well, I love that name.
And Julian's a top bloke, and Jules was calling. He's got a great cello player. We had a conversation about music, and I lined him up for a gig and a rehearsal straight away, and it worked because you could just sometimes know it's going to be there.
Yeah.
And I've played with cello players before, like even way back when I was a singer-songwriter, but I haven't played with a cello player that could probably, I don't know, take the instrument as far as you can. Like,
sure.
I mean, his references are extraordinary and his knowledge is great. And I'm an absolute Dirty fan through. I love Warren Ellis's viola, and there's some of that there as well, and all that sort of business. And the nuance and the space between the notes is so important to a string instrument.
Yeah.
It's emotive by quality, and Jules has that down. But my cousin Sam was listening to it, who plays bass in Whistler and Jesus Darwin, and he's like, Ori, I didn't realise just how much string players have probably meant to you. It reminded me of a story. We were up at a gig at Kindred, and my music gig up at Kindred, and Northern Tassie, and a fella, a new guy I met, was like, man, who's your favourite guitarist and all that stuff. I said, oh, yeah, I don't know. I like lots of guitarists. And he hassled me on. This guy wasn't letting it go.
Yep.
Top fella. But it's a question that's not my favourite question. I sort of some ways don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And he's pushing me on this. And I said, all right, well, if you're going to push me on it, it's cool. I realised you were serious about it. And I realised it wasn't a big deal for me to talk about. I said, look, to be honest with you, my favourite guitarist is probably Warren Ellis on viola. Is probably my favourite guitarist.
Yeah.
And my cousin Sam was there, and he's like, what's he even fucking talking about? And then it's like, and then once I had the cello in the room and he listened back to the recordings, what we did, he goes, oh, I fully get it now, mate. I didn't realise how much you're playing is like a fretless stringed instrument, even though you're playing a fretted instrument. I love chasing those spaces in between. Like you mentioned Indian music before, and all sorts of other beautiful scales out there in the world. The inflections are everything. And they definitely do open up the different emotive responses.
Yep.
And they're in people's voices when they sing,
Oh, totally.
I work with amazing vocalists, but they're always moving between notes.
Yep.
And
even the greatest vocalists have got some kind of vibrato on a voice.
100%.
And they often tend to emphasise that because it sounds fucking great.
And how many amazing vocalists aren't pitch perfect?
Of course.
Yeah, but it's that tone and that attitude and that inflection which creates the character.
Yep.
And guitars are sort of designed for us to be a bit rigid.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Just the frets there, it's like, okay, that's the note.
Yeah. And they're not perfect. They're not perfectly intoned.
No. Even a true temperament guitar.
Yeah.
As soon as you put your finger on it, like the slightest movement, you're off the pitch.
Yeah.
So
you got to use
why
your ears.
You got to use that nice slow vibrato on your notes to
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hats off to Eric Clapton for teaching us that.
Yeah.
And others, but he's certainly one of the. He's got one of the great string vibratos.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I might, back to that sort of, that Brit blues sort of explosion time. I mean, I will credit Page for that bending, that journey in between notes.
Yep.
And great notes like, major sixes, major seconds, great use of sevenths. Other notes that guitarists this day still aren't sure what to do with all the time.
Sure.
Yep. Those notes are important. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, you bend up from them, don't you? Or you bend up to them and then release real quick.
Yeah.
But then you've got like guitarists like, B.B. King, obviously, who's the microtonal bending.
That was it. Yeah, 100%.
Especially on the third. Like that minor third. Like, because the blues you're playing in a major key. You're using the minor scale. And there's this microtonal bend on that minor third in a major context, and it sounds magical. Yeah.
Oh no, look, there's so much to be had out there. I'm loving the journey. I've been on it for a long time, and I'll keep doing it. And the reason I like playing with singer-songwriters is because there's going to be something new around the corner.
Yep.
There's going to be a new challenge, and I find I'm getting better at it. I can hear something and say, this is great. This is going to be a great song for a band. Let's put this aside for now while we're a duo. Or that's awesome, but I think we're going to rewrite a part of that because I think I know what you're trying to say and tell me if I'm wrong. And I've come, or I'll say, before you go today, here's 3 new chords you haven't played before. Have a play with those. But when you come back, you might see how they're going to work into your song.
Sure.
And people love that interaction of they get something from, they get some knowledge, they get something new. And as a vocalist, as a writer, the new spaces,
Definitely.
That's the inspiration, isn't it? Yeah.
There's a I call it new. It's not new. To me, it's new. Something that I've been messing around with recently that previously almost completely ignored. And the scale is the double harmonic major, also known as the Byzantine scale, which people, the audience, will know from Mizzaloo, the Pulp Fiction soundtrack, Dick Dale, that scale right there.
Yeah.
And I I have no idea why I ignored this scale for so long, because it's got some you've got semitones all over the place.
Yes.
You know, so you've got these microtonal bending on those semitones works perfectly.
100%.
And you've got the sharp 7, so you playing heavy metal, most major scales, if you're going to say like Lydian or Mixolydian, something like this, you're just going to sound like you're chasing Steve Vai.
Yep. 100%.
You know?
Yep.
But you use the double harmonic major, and you don't sound like that anymore. You're back in familiar Ingve-ish type territory.
Yeah.
You know, those darker sound. He doesn't really use that scale so much. He tends to use just your harmonic minor.
Yeah.
Which is, use the hell out of that too in heavy metal.
Yeah. I hear it all the time, harmonic minor, but the melodic minor is so much more interesting.
You've got those 2 tritones,
and then suddenly you've got 2 more notes as well. So like there you go. So you've introduced more elements of the chromatic nature of the scale, which is great, and it creates more character.
I'm still at that point where I'm still kind of only using them as passing notes to get back into familiar territory.
They traditionally are designed as passing notes in that Western format for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, it's something. You got to have tricks in your bag. I don't know. You probably have favourite scales. I mean, some of the simplest favourites are simplest. Like, I love a Dorian.
Sure.
Like the Dorian scale is just... it's like the happy minor.
Well, you've got that,
and it works,
that sixth, that natural sixth.
Yeah, and it works so well through so many people's songs, especially if that singer-songwriters come off, the half a dozen chords and a pretty simple in-key sort of
It gives you that sea shanty type sense of adventure. Like this is going somewhere.
It gives you safer blues notes. There's blues notes there, but they're just a little bit more, I don't know. It's a bit of it's a comfortable space.
Sure.
And sometimes you're not ready to rock the boat in a song yet because we're still trying to discover what it's doing.
Yeah.
I
really need to spend more time with Dorian myself. I'll often find myself like, okay, here's where I should put a Dorian. And I actually just fall straight back into harmonic minor anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, I like this one, but... these are those opportunities whenever you come up against something that's a challenge, it's or a difficulty. There's your opportunity to grow. Yeah, and I should spend some more time with the Dorian.
Yeah. I like. We shouldn't be thinking too much when we're playing either.
Oh no, certainly. Well,
but at that time when we're sitting down and unpacking these things is good sometimes.
I feel a bit like Homer sometimes. Like that picture, like that little ape with the clouds. When I'm actually like on stage, like when I'm in practice, I think a bit more. If I'm actually like performing, like now it's go time. I'm probably not thinking too deeply about what I'm doing. I just. Essentially hope and generally am spent that time in preparation so that when it comes to that it feels like pretty natural.
It's good to be in this game.
It's the hope, and of course that doesn't always work out perfectly, but
100%. I mean, I play with a band called Mocaine, and hats off to Topher Mora and his songwriting. Greg and Matt, they're awesome guys to play with, and we don't play much. We've hiatus for a couple of years, but we've pulled off a couple of great gigs in the last year. Willie Smith's Winterfest and Guitar Fest. I think the last time I saw you down there, the camera was down that way at Longley.
Billy Warner's Guitar Fest.
Billy Warner, love Billy Warner and everything he does down there. And Billy loves that band. And that was the first band I played in where I was supposed to be a lead guitarist, even though I'd been playing lead guitar in bands since I was 15. It was just something I put aside for more than a dozen years.
That reminds me of something. I've got a bone to pick with you.
Go on then.
So I went out to see your band.
Yeah.
And you weren't there.
Oh, yeah?
The Repub.
Oh, okay.
I went down there to do some photography.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like, it's Phil Smith and the lights. Okay, that's fine. I can take photos of them too.
And I came along later that night and saw Phil play for the first time. He's great.
Oh, absolutely.
Different genre.
I've done sound for Phil a number of times.
He knows what he's doing.
Oh, absolutely.
No, look, that was one of those gigs where I was just like,
I was really looking forward to seeing your band.
Lenny from Odlin didn't call me until about
Yeah.
10 days before, and
Good old Lenny.
And yeah, I love Lenny. He's done some great artwork, and we had done some great artwork again for this gig as well. And
Yep.
and he called me. And it was one of those times where I'm like, yeah, I'll be there, and I don't have to organise anything because Lenny's just got it all covered.
Yep.
But Lenny said, you know, he felt very frustrated. He had to call me back 4 or 5 days out for the gig and say,
Yeah.
we've
Well, it
tried.
wasn't really his fault.
None of it was his fault. He tried.
His guitar player, one of his guitar players, COVID.
Yeah, that happened, and we were going to push on before that happened because the other band pulled out. Jack's away, we couldn't do it.
But she got the
Yeah, Jack's. So we were going to push on with the 2 bands, and then by the time they lost the guitarist, I was like, oh, sorry, I'm glad I'm not you today, Lenny. I'm sorry, mate.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we went there, and anyway, that was a good.
It was it was still a good gig.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, you can't blame me for that one.
No.
I'm always the yes person. I'll be there.
But it's when you got someone on the spot. That's the opportunity to do it.
100%. Yeah. I'll take one for the team on that. I should have been there.
As you said, you did show up, but
in
the band.
support.
So I'll have to see them. Jesus Darwin at another spot. Have you got something coming up soon?
Mona 14th. January, and then the Royal Oakland 29th of January.
That's 2 days from now.
That's it. Yep.
And on the 14th, so you're playing at Mona.
Mm-hmm.
That night, I'm playing at the Repub.
Yes. Yep.
So
big afternoon.
come and see my death metal band at the Repub on the 14th.
Yeah, we're on at 12 o'clock midday on the big stage.
I'll be there doing your sound.
Great. We're in good hands once again. And and we'll come down to the Repub after.
Brilliant.
Balanced day. Now, Jesus Darwin will be good that day. We've got Sam Sculptor's going to play with us.
Oh, great.
And Julian Swinton on
the loudest folk singing ever.
Yes. Yeah. He
leaves nothing out there.
No. I've got him on the reins a little bit. We might ease into the first set. He might miss a few songs. Because once he's on.
That's right. No, that's
once he's
all
on.
gas, no brakes.
That's why you got to love that. I love it.
Can't be folded.
Again, those conversations that matter. Like Sam came back from the pub one day, and my cousin plays in the bands, and he said, I met this guy, I saw him play, saw him sing, and he just owned the room and tore shreds off it all.
Yep.
And I'd been toying the idea of Jesus Darwin, a 3-piece instrumental band, doing more with vocalists. We'd tried a few things.
Yep.
And Sam explained this guy to me. I just sort of looked in his eyes, and I said, Sam, I think we found our man. Because I reckon in lieu of having a front person, which I don't ever really want because we can do anything we want without a front person owning the band.
Yep.
Sam and I started talking by message, and he was like, I haven't got time to do any more hustling. I said, no worries, man. I'm that man. All you got to do is show up and just,
And what a great front man.
Bring your mischief, bring your thing. And we took him up to Kindred Hall, and I think he just tore him a new one. They were gobsmacked. They loved it. We didn't get on until about 11:30 at night, and people were they'd prize them out of the room at 1 o'clock because the room is Sam just does it. He does it so well. Yeah, so he's a treat for some of those gigs.
Oh, definitely.
He's so engaging. Julian's cello is just beautiful too. So we'll feature that in the first set.
I made a video for Sam a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yes, the song was. This is with one of his other bands. Of all the many bands he's in, this was the Drunken Snow Angels.
Oh, yes. Let's call him Skullfield. He says
Skullfield.
He keeps telling me off.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was silent. I guess it's not.
Schofield. Yeah,
Skullfield.
He wants to be called that. It's no more Sam's as far as his music. Like me with ORRI.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So Skullfield. It was Don't Fall in My Beer.
Yeah.
Unless it was Don't Fall in My Beard. I think it's beer.
I'm pretty sure it's beer.
Beer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Leaves don't fall in my beer. Cigarette ash don't fall in my beer. Something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
you don't want it to fall in your beer.
No, it's important stuff.
Yeah.
Let's make it clear.
Or people. You don't want people falling in your beer either. Or hair, long hair.
Yeah.
Don't fall in my beer.
Yeah, I don't know. Like he was drinking beer out of a shoe at Kindred. But I don't know what was in that one.
Not German. Look, that's about all we've got time for.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming down today, ORRI.
Yeah.
And 14th at Mona, catch Jesus Darwin on the main stage.
100%.
And then
29th at the Oak in Launceston.
29th at the Oak.
Yep. And Katie Wilson and I and Jules on cello. The Scrimshander band, we're going to be... sorry, that's the 29th. Mistake. 29th at Spring Bay with Katie.
Yes.
Spring Bay Mill. I think Sunflower Fest, I think it is.
Right.
Ange Boxall was a great little organisation there. And the 22nd at the Royal Oak in Launceston.
22nd.
Yeah. And Babylon House supporting us, coming
yeah,
on a
EJ's
road trip
band.
with us.
Yeah.
Yep. Love those guys too.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having Dave and I along for a song.
Not a problem.
And thanks for the chat today, Colin.
And I'll see you sometime soon.
Cheers, mate.